really absorb whatever it is that you're studying, and take this time at B school or wherever you are pursuing your master's to learn,
Thank you,
right?
Sevi, for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Yong. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate all the work you're doing for people out there. Kudos, keep it up.
Thank
All
you.
right. So, about myself, my name is Shevya Singh Rathore, but I go by Chevy because it's easy and convenient and I don't have to explain it. So, I'm from India. I graduated from engineering in 2012. I did aeronautical engineering, after which I briefly worked with airlines until I realized that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Then I joined, I was really, really passionate at the time about doing something for the society. So I joined Teach for India, and that was the most formative time of my life.
Hmm.
I did 2 years of that. I taught fifth, sixth, and seventh graders in Chennai, after which I got the opportunity to work for an Antarctic expedition company where I led expeditions to Antarctica
Hmm.
annually in 2016, 17, and 18.
Hmm.
Now, after 3 years of doing this, I realized that I needed to get to the next step, for which I needed education,
Hmm.
more skills. I was trying to launch my own social venture, but I realized that I didn't have business skills or knowledge to sustain it.
Hmm.
So I decided to do my MBA, got into the University of North Carolina, and right after which I got into Amazon. So I started working with Amazon in July 2020.
Hmm.
Joined virtually, and yeah, right now I work as a senior product manager in Amazon Business, which is a separate uh, website within Amazon for business customers to fulfill their needs. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the intro. Like, would you tell me a little bit about like how you got into the company?
yeah.
Yeah.
I prepared for consulting interviews and I went into the Amazon interview with a very free mind and being my authentic self. And I mean this.
Hmm.
I did not have, at least on that day, I abandoned the pressure of getting into this
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, maybe I don't even stand a chance. So I don't have anything to
Yeah.
lose. So I went in with a free mind, and all that preparation in consulting really had me peak on that particular day. So I followed two things. One, I researched all of the leadership principles, what they meant, through the numerous videos that are available on YouTube. And now
Hmm.
your videos are actually top of
Yes.
that list.
Thank you.
But they were really helpful.
Uh-huh.
So I read all of Jeff Bezos, stakeholder
Hmm.
letters and interviews, studied them in detail to understand what these principles mean.
Hmm.
And really, as I was trying to understand the principles, I did feel like a connection with them.
Hmm.
I was like, while they are known as principles, they're actually very common sense. They're very um, like they can be followed in day to day, and
Hmm.
they can actually be very effective if you were to
Hmm.
use them at work, right? So I believed in them. And then second, I was like, this is who I am. I'm going to play to my strengths and I'm going to be my authentic self.
Hmm.
I'm not going to tweak myself to becoming or sounding like
Yeah.
somebody that
Yep.
I'm
Some.
not.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
followed that, and and on that day, because I wasn't taking pressure, I was able to think on my feet. And that really helped because you can only prepare so much, right? Like
Hmm.
you can prepare the principles and everything, but unless you're being authentic when you're asked follow-up questions, which is a regular practice, which is a practice during these interviews, you cannot answer these follow-up questions if you're just making something up,
Yeah.
right? You have to really agree with the core of that story. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
I peaked that day, and I found myself at Amazon. And I joined as an intern, by the way, in the summer of 2019.
Hmm.
And as an intern, my role was I was actually placed as a product manager.
Uh-huh.
So I worked as a product manager in consumables B2B team, which is
Gotcha.
um, which is a consumables team. By consumables, I mean health and personal care, grocery, and other consumable items.
Mm-hmm.
But we were selling to Amazon business customers on
Ah.
Amazon business website.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined as an intern, and my project was to scope the opportunity for this team
Mm-hmm.
for short term, mid term, and long term. So I had to research 10 different customer segments and put together a 6-pager
Yeah.
with millions of appendices. Just kidding, not millions of appendices, but 6 or 7
Yeah.
pages of
Yeah.
appendices and
Yeah.
data. And yeah, and I was selected at the end of that process. And I
So
decided to come back
yeah.
young because I really liked that Amazon cherished me for who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And B, they weren't really trying to fit me into a box with,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you need to have had product manager experience
Mm-hmm.
or you need to have had this type of an experience. They were willing to take me as long as I demonstrated those leadership principles that they truly believe in. And they were willing to take a chance with a newbie like me for me to learn and grow at the company. So these are the two reasons that brought me at Amazon.
One of the things that I really like about how we hire is that we don't really, especially for like RLDs, like the Retail Leadership Development Program, is that we try to, see this person, if this person can be well suited in Amazon, not only just for one role. And I think it like that's
Correct.
like you probably like demonstrated your past experience in a very transferable way. And like I believe that's the reason that you were able to come back as a full-time employee and obviously crack the interview too. So yeah, that's a really interesting story. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about like what you do or what you have done in the past when you were an intern. And I just want to learn a little bit more about like what you do now, like that you're what do you do, and then what's your day to day look like, all those kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, I work as a senior product manager
Mm-hmm.
on Amazon business team.
Mm-hmm.
And within Amazon business, I work within pricing. So I own the pricing experience for sellers within Amazon business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the project or the product that I own is called Mars. It's a repricing engine for sellers to be competitive
Mm-hmm.
in a dynamic way. So I own that product. And now what the day to day looks like is um, three, if I can bucketize this into
Yeah.
3 parts. One big part of my day or my job is working with engineers
Uh-huh.
to define the vision and requirements of the product
Mm-hmm.
and getting them to implement it by building the features.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, really understanding within myself first what I want to build for the end customer, which in our case is the business customer,
Mm-hmm.
and then breaking that down into a vision,
Mm-hmm.
actually making a vision of that, and then breaking it down into requirements to provide to the engineers that I work with on a day to day to help them build those products.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not only get them to build the product, but own the life cycle of this process, which
Mm-hmm.
is ideation, creation, follow up, and
Yeah.
then reiterating and iterating over and over again.
Yep.
So working with engineering team is one. The second part of my day to day is really understanding and analyzing the voice of the seller.
Mm.
In my case, the customers, right? The
Yes.
sellers. By sellers, I mean not retailers, but retail counterparts in the
Mm-hmm.
marketplace, the
Mm-hmm.
third party
Yeah.
sellers. So, really understanding their voice and their pain points and analyzing it both qualitatively and quantitatively in order to think about, okay, what am I going to build next,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that is one part of my day. And then the third part is you build products, but products are only as good as the go to market strategy.
Yeah.
So, really focusing on the adoption of the product, getting
Mm.
it out there in front of the sellers,
Mm-hmm.
answering all the questions related to the product in the most ingestible way for the sellers
Mm-hmm.
is another really core area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
can bucketize it again, engineering, product development and vision, and then go to market strategy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that kind of ties into what all the product managers do. Was there, so
Yeah.
a you are hired as a product manager, but as you have mentioned before, you didn't really have like a business background or like a product manager background. I mean, like you do have an engineering degree, but like I just want to know or learn more about like your learning curves. And like if you, I mean, obviously everyone who joins Amazon probably does have a learning curve, and like just wanted to learn more on like how you have overcame, because with for such a diverse background you have, such a different background you have, just like kind of want to learn like like how you have managed yourself to adopt to the new environment.
Yeah, that is a great question, Yong. One that I think about every single day in order to, like, really, sometimes I think to myself, how did I end up here? How did I
Yeah,
become a product manager?
yeah.
And then I reflect on the things that I did. First thing, I think as an intern, because of the project and because of my internship, I got a PMing 101. So
Mm,
really understanding the customer pain points and
mm-hmm,
building backwards, working backwards from there.
mm-hmm,
So that helped. But when I joined full time in July 2020, the learning curve for me. So at Amazon, every day, every week, every month, every quarter, we analyze our metrics, right?
mm,
Metrics, by metrics, I mean KPIs associated with the health of the product or health of the business, right? So,
yep,
in order to be on top of the data, you have to be really adept at it. You have to be really, really good. You should not only have data mining skills, but also analytical skills to analyze the
mm-hmm,
data and derive business insights from it. So that was quite a learning curve for me because I didn't know SQL.
mm-hmm,
And while you have business intelligence engineers to support you, I think it's very important to coming into Amazon to understand how to run SQL and how to identify where the data is to answer your questions, and then be able to make a story that your business leaders understand.
yep,
So I think that was pretty challenging, but also interesting,
yeah,
right? And then the other learning curve for me was as a PM, how do you, in my mind, for example, it's easy to visualize what I want to build, but
uh-huh,
how do you communicate that to engineers, right?
yeah,
The language that they understand is different from the language that you understand as a business manager.
uh-huh,
So really breaking it down into small steps in the most technical way possible, thinking
mm,
about how an engineer would understand it was another learning curve. And there, I think I got a little bit help from my Teach for India experience because
uh.
even as a teacher, you have to explain complex topics to children, right?
Yep,
And your children can be of so many types, like so many
yes,
levels and so many um, levels of how they understand
yep,
things. The student groups are really diverse, so
yep,
then you really break it down. So I think that skill was transferable, and people here have been really kind to be accepting of who I am, and
mm-hmm,
actually celebrating that diversity that I bring to the table,
mm-hmm,
and being accepting of the fact that I'm not like a you know a, like a PM. I don't have like a PM
yeah,
background.
yeah,
So celebrating me for my strengths and then pushing me and pulling me along for my area
yeah,
of development has been really helpful. And then another learning curve, Young, I would say, is at Amazon, writing is super critical,
oh
right?
yeah, for sure,
Any, yeah, right from reporting updates to communicating with your leaders or even pitching ideas, you need to be able to write documents ranging from one pagers to six pagers
mm-hmm,
to convey whatever it is or for whatever purpose.
mm-hmm,
So, really being able to convey my ideas in the most succinct, articulate manner
mm-hmm.
was, and writing it in the Amazon way where you're not using weasel words and you're hitting the point straight in
Yeah,
the bud, and driving the point home and communicating it in a way that you're answering not only first order but second order questions with your statements. I think that was another learning curve. So yeah, that pretty much comprises it, right?
Yeah.
If I have to summarize: data mining, data analytical skills, um, written communication in the most succinct and
Yeah.
articulate manner, and then being able to break down complex product vision into simple requirements that can be followed by engineers to build a product.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point there because I think in Amazon, especially like verbal and written communication is so important. And we write docs here. We don't use PowerPoints. We don't, use all those fancy tools to present our ideas. It's more so around writing. So it's really important that you know how to write as an Amazonian. And yeah, I think I probably went through all those different, all the things that you mentioned as well when I first joined too. So it's super relatable. Um, Moving on to the next question. So you mentioned your assistant product manager at Amazon business side. I just want to learn more about like, so what's the part that you like the most, and then maybe what's the part that you like the least. I know you mentioned a lot about how accepting they are, how diverse it is, and then how helpful they are in terms of like pulling you and then pushing you to help you grow. But was wondering if there's anything else that you could actually bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Another great question, Young. Thank you. What I like the most about my job is working with engineers
Mm,
because, my background is in engineering. I did that for my undergrad degree. So getting to work with engineers, getting to build a product from scratch, even though I don't have the coding skills per se,
yeah.
getting to really live that through the engineers is really, really exciting for me. Um, and engineers, oh my God, they're so smart. If I could go back, I think I would, push myself to be better at computer science and learn how to code and stuff because it's so gratifying if you can build something. But at least as a PM, I get to like enjoy it, I would say at 80%, right?
Yeah.
I get to build a product without really knowing how to code.
Hmm.
So I love that about my job. What the least, the thing I like the least is, like, as much as I like the mechanisms, right, that we have at Amazon, like the weekly,
Hmm.
monthly,
Hmm.
quarterly
Hmm.
reviews, business
Yeah.
reviews that we have, where we look at every metric and why it's gone up or down, and explain the drivers. It's amazing, right? Jeff B came up with this in order to learn something new every day, every week, every month, every quarter to grow the business.
Hmm.
Right now, I feel that, and this is my personal opinion, that we're at a stage in Amazon where we are now almost like, or at least we are a developing country, right? Like, or the equivalent of it, or developed, somewhere in between of
Yeah.
developing and developed.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can get frustrating when you're working on a project or product and you have like a launch coming up, and
Yep.
you're deep in your thoughts about that, but you have to still show up and prepare for these mechanisms, right?
Mm.
That can be a little bit
Yeah.
challenging because you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I mean, this week I don't have anything new to say except X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
Can
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just submit it in writing?
Yeah.
So sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating, but also some other times when I'm frustrated with the same mechanism, the part that I least like sometimes, I do end up learning a lot, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm still like forming my opinion about it. But yes, sometimes I feel like, hey, can I just focus on my product and not show up for this weekly
Yeah.
mechanism? Or can I,
Yeah.
like, can we look at this next week? Or is it
For
that
sure.
important? But
Yeah.
some other times I'm like, if I didn't attend this, I would not have come across these findings that are now becoming an input to my work.
I think you bring up a really good point too, because like it all kind of depends on the priority. Like if
Right.
you like, obviously we're all human. We only have 24 hours a day. And we should be working, eight, I don't know how many hours, but like
Eight.
it's yes, yeah, we gotta basically prioritize those stuff, and then make sure that we work on stuff that's most important. And yeah, so but I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my last question is advice for those who wants to join Amazon as a product manager without any, prior product management experience.
My favorite question, because I was this person less than 3 years ago.
Yep.
And I didn't think I had a chance. So I wish somebody at that time told me these things. One, I think that try to do your best at business school or whichever master's degree you're in, and really absorb all the ideas and lessons and
Mm,
cases that you're reviewing, because we review a lot of papers here at Amazon. There are a lot of difference of opinions, diverse perspectives thrown around,
mm-hmm,
which you should be able to process and have,
mm-hmm,
and yet have your own POV.
mm-hmm.
By POV, I mean your own opinion,
Yep.
perspective, right? Point of view.
Yep.
So really absorb whatever it is that you're studying, and take
Mm-hmm,
this time at B school or wherever you are pursuing your master's to learn, right?
mm-hmm,
The next important thing that I'd like to call out is data. Oh my God. Like,
mm,
and this is everywhere. I don't think this is Amazon specific, but this is like the need of the hour, the need of the day. Whoever is
mm-hmm.
good at data is great at their job and has an edge over other people,
Yeah.
especially B school candidates,
Uh-huh.
because we may or may not come from data backgrounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding data mining, how to analyze it, how to derive good business insights. Amazing, key skill. And something very specific that I'll call out here is SQL. I
Mm,
think SQL is one skill that can take you places. If you
mm-hmm.
know, obviously, when you enter a company, you'll have access to data tables. And if you can write simple or complex queries to derive whatever you're trying to derive and create a story that your
Mm-hmm.
business leaders can understand quickly, then you're king at your job. So that is my second advice. And then third thing is really focus on, in school we get frustrated with assignments and why
Yeah.
are professors asking us to write.
Yeah.
Take those assignments seriously, because written and verbal
Uh,
communication is key. If you can, so there'll be two scenarios, right? Two situations. One is to pitch anything and everything. You have to write a paper here, right from providing business requirements to the engineer to
mm-hmm.
pitching it to leadership to get approval for your product and everything else. You're going to have to write papers. So you should be able to write it in the most succinct way,
Yeah.
direct way, where you cannot fill these papers with weasel words or just philosophy or
Yep.
random data or
Mm-hmm.
sentences that are not data backed. So being able to do that. And then second, you'll have presentations where these docs will be read by
Mm.
people and they'll have questions, right? So
Yep.
make sure that with your communication, you're able to answer first and second order questions at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then be able to communicate the same verbally as well, right? If your leader asks you a question, you should be able to condense your answer in about 30 seconds and really answer the question and get on with it. Like, no, you cannot fluff
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So really practicing that at business school or masters is really important.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
relate to that too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Young, I think you'll agree with this too. We have a lot of group projects in B
Mm.
schools, master's
Yeah.
degrees. So being, sometimes at least as this culture was new to me. Like I moved to this country in 2018.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes, by virtue of where you come from, you can feel a little hesitant to put your perspective,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with other people.
Uh-huh.
You hesitate a little bit and you just end up agreeing because everybody is
Yeah.
saying something,
Yeah.
because the herd is saying that. I think breaking away from that practice and really critically thinking
Oh yeah.
about processing everybody's opinion, but at the same time, really critically thinking what is your POV, point of view on something, and then being able to, again, communicate it is
Yeah.
super important. So being able to disagree in the most polite, intellectual,
Yeah.
respectful manner is also like another.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly summarize it. Casing, please case a lot. Do all types of cases, consulting, tech, any case you find. So have that, I think that passion for problem solving will take you places.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what PMing is. You have a
Mm-hmm.
problem, you break it down, you solve for it, right? And then SQL, data skills, data mining skills, and
Mm-hmm.
then being able to communicate these, whatever you're seeing in the data in the form of written and verbal communication, and then being able to push back and disagree in the most polite,
Yeah.
respectful,
Yeah.
nice way while keeping your own, having your own, will take you places. Not only at Amazon, but anywhere.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good, it's basically earn trust, dive deep, learn and be curious, and have
Yes.
backbone, disagree and commit. It's like leadership principle all over. But yeah, I really like your answer. Yeah, Chevy, those are all my questions today. I think it was an amazing session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yong, so much for the opportunity once again. I think what you're doing is incredible.
Thank
I
you.
sometimes think, how do you find the time to do this amidst work? But
Yeah.
really, I really look up to you. And yeah,
Okay.
thank you for giving me this opportunity
Yeah.
to talk to everyone
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I appreciate the time. Chevy, thank you so much.